Darkcast Network. Come to the dark side of podcasts. We have cookies.
Cookies? Me love cookies.
Where do legends come from?
Are they born out of the land and the stories people tell about it? Or have they always been there, waiting to be discovered?
What does it mean if we forget them?
How do they remind us they're there?
Is it a bump in the night?
Will they come in a dream?
Will stories pass from sets of lovers' lips like kisses do? I'm Eleanor.
I'm Martin.
And we are a real-life married couple and the creators and hosts of Three Ravens, an independent myth and folklore podcast all about folklore, folkways, and the power of stories.
For a little over 2 years, we've been releasing weekly episodes about England's 39 historic counties, exploring the history, folklore, traditional foods and customs of each area, and chatting about their ghosts and mermaids, mythical monsters, half-forgotten heroes, bloody legends, and much more.
Along the way, we've released whole 13-episode bonus series about cryptids and mythical creatures, interviews with authors, storytellers, and local experts from each county, heritage crafts dying out as society changes, the history of magical practices, folk songs, folkloric true crimes, and the most famous witches and wizards ever to have lived.
We've retold over 100 stories for Three Ravens. Most episodes are standalone, but if you want to adventure with us, we have over 350 in the back catalogue for you to listen to right now, wherever you get your podcasts, and even more through our Patreon.
Right now, we're preparing to launch our 7th series, which will be all about the myths and legends of the 13 historic counties of Wales. Before next year, we turn our focus to the 13 original states of the American Union.
Our first book was also just published in hardback, Three Ravens Folktales, and we're touring all over the UK, so come and see us live if you can.
You can learn all about us on our website, threeravenspodcast.com, or just search Three Ravens Podcast on your chosen podcast app.
Ranked as one of the top 50 all-time English podcasts, the number 5 top witchy podcast, and the number 6 all-time top short story podcast on the whole internet, according to Good Pods, come gather round the Three Ravens campfire and listen in.
And remember, don't whistle till you're out of the woods.
Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way, motherfucker. The devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Fall to your knees. Devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Motherfucker, he's on his
Hey y'all, welcome back to Mountain Murders.
I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
Hi, Dylan.
Hello, Heather.
I had a great idea. We need to compile a show bloopers reel.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, folks already know we're fairly unprofessional. I mean, maybe not fairly, but like we are seriously unprofessional.
Very unprofessional.
And if we had a bloopers reel, then it could just reinforce the fact that we're goofy.
So
we've attempted to like record this episode, like 6 times now?
No, this might be the 3rd or 4th time. But you know what they say? The seventh time is the charm.
Well, there we go.
Right?
How are you doing, Dylan?
I'm doing great. Enjoying the beautiful fall day. And I have to say I'm excited to be recording episode 2 of the Adam Walsh case. And I learned a lot in the first episode. And so, yeah, I think we should just get straight into it because I know you got a lot more to tell us.
We absolutely do. In part 2, we do have a lot to cover. But I also wanted to remark, I had a few folks who listened to the pod reach out and say they were unfamiliar with this case. I guess I took that for granted that some folks might not be familiar with the Adam Walsh story. It was so prevalent, I think, during our childhood, this story. It was just all over the place. And it really changed things, especially I think for our parents and kind of the way kids were allowed to just have freedom to roam.
Oh, no, it certainly did change people's mindset. And also we have to remember back then, there wasn't just this constant presence of true crime and all these different cases. And like back then, if you wanted to talk about or listen to or read true crime all the time, it would be very hard.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, they are only a couple of years into even having the term like serial killer in the lexicon.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And this was one of the earlier cases that I remember kind of blowing up.
Oh, yeah.
And being very sensational nationwide.
I do remember my mom being very concerned about abduction and kidnapping and missing children at this time, like hovering, if you will, doing the helicopter parent thing.
Well, and let's be honest, this is a shocking case. You have a child disappear, and then, like at the end of your episode, the discovery of literally his part of his remains in a drainage ditch. I mean, that's everyone's nightmare.
Absolutely. Dylan, let's get into part 2. I'm assuming you're ready.
I am ready. I've already started.
When we left you at the end of part 1, they had held Adam's funeral. Over 1,000 people attended.
Which does not surprise me.
In the wake of Adam's disappearance and then discovery, the Walshes received 20,000 cards, letters, mass cards, and information about trees planted in his memory. This story touched a lot of lives out there. What struck John Walsh were the grieving families who had a missing or murdered child, and many of them would say the same things, like, I could never get the police to do anything.
Oh, wow.
People were sending money to the Walshes, saying they didn't know how to help, but here's some money, use it how you see fit.
And so people just wanted to do anything they could to help this poor family, right?
Well, yeah, and I mean, it seems like they are kind of trusting John Walsh to take the lead in advocating for these children.
Which is pretty amazing if you consider what he goes on to do.
Then a Florida senator named Paula Hawkins reached out to the Walsh family. A Senate investigation subcommittee was beginning to look into the issue of missing children. There was a piece of legislation being worked on. It was, I guess the working title was the Missing Children Act. The bill would require that the government keep a file on missing kids and the unidentified deceased. John and Reve were asked to testify, along with Camille Bell. She was the mother of one of the 29 black boys who had been murdered in Atlanta.
Okay.
Famously, the Atlanta child killings. Her son was Yusuf.
And she was very outspoken during that case, right?
Yeah, she definitely was. So 8 weeks after Adam's death, John and Reve appear before the subcommittee. The New York Times ran an article on the hearing. By now, the Walshes were experiencing shockwaves in the aftermath of Adam's death. Their home was in foreclosure. They had gone through their life savings, which at the time was about $13,000. And John was barely hanging on to his marketing job. Also, John is not only carrying the weight of his missing and murdered child, but also those families who had missing and murdered children.
So
because they were starting to reach out to him, and he was feeling, all this empathy and compassion for other people, and it was almost like he was carrying this very big burden around.
Well, yeah, and it seems like he's that type of person. Like he's tried to shield his wife from some of these darker details of this case as they've unfolded, and it's also, it must be very hard for him because this is happening during a very raw emotional time for him, right? And I'm sure as these people reach out, describing similar experiences, trying to get law enforcement to help, things like that, it's he can relate, because he's in the middle of it himself.
Well, and he's spending time advocating for missing children. He's gone to D.C. He's made appearances on a few news programs. Both Reve and John felt like something had to be done. Like this issue was weighing on them very heavily, and they couldn't just sit around like twiddling their thumbs.
Right.
Right? They didn't know the first thing about starting a nonprofit, but Reve announced that she was going to open an office to work full-time on the cause of missing children. Now her life had purpose again, she felt. The Adam Walsh Outreach Center for Missing Children was established. A small police station in Pembroke Pines, Florida, was available for the couple to use as an office space. People donated a lot of items, office furniture, telephones,
just the
filing cabinets,
all the stuff they need to get started.
And volunteers who'd worked to find Adam were among some of the first to volunteer with this organization. Soon, other volunteers started showing up. It would take a lot more than just a couple of donations of furniture to get their center up and running. They held their first fundraiser in the parking lot of the Hollywood Mall where Adam had gone missing. A TV crew from NBC's Real People showed up, and the family was invited back for a second interview on Good Morning America to push for this missing children's bill, and they also appeared on the Donahue Show.
No, this is not the first case we've covered where parents have went on to do, like say, a nonprofit or to advocate for legislation to change laws, which I really think is that's when you're making real change, having a big impact. But I'm always just really amazed that these parents are able to pour that kind of energy into something like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not just about them or their child or missing loved one. It's about making sure other people don't go through what they went through.
Well, and it's really interesting if you read John Walsh's book, Tears of Rage. He goes into more detail about lobbying and visiting the Hill and trying to get senators and, Congress to act on passing this bill. And he was met with a lot of opposition. I mean, some of these politicians were just flat out cruel to him.
Which really doesn't make sense to me, But I think I was listening to someone who is a Washington insider talk about how they really are in a bubble. They're in our nation's capital. The people that work there, the people that have worked there year after year, and of course the Congress people that come and go. They really are in an insulated bubble. And a lot of times I feel like they think maybe they're more important than they are, because they truly are there to represent the people. So,
in theory.
Well, see, gosh, I can't even believe I'm talking about Congress in generic terms.
But most
given
of them are
what's
there
happening.
to represent themselves and line their own pockets. Let's be honest.
Yes. But, if you think about it, they're there to represent their constituents. And so when someone comes to you, the public, with an issue or problem, that really should be your foremost act or thought is to, how can I help? But a lot of times that's not how it works.
Well, yeah, and one of the main issues happening is that a lot of these small police departments and law enforcement agencies are not really doing investigative work, right? But they're not willing to really get the FBI to come in either. And then the FBI had no system to track missing children. And the FBI found it unnecessary to pass this Missing Children's Act because they felt like, well, we're doing a good job, even when they were not. And so a lot of these senators and congressmen were on the side of the FBI, well, they're doing a good job. We don't need this. It's unnecessary.
But, so I didn't realize that it went that far. It went beyond an ill-prepared local police department. There actually were shortcomings all the way through the FBI back then.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I mean, that blows my mind.
Yeah.
But I guess I take for granted now, that maybe it's always been this way, which that really blows my mind. But yeah, I mean, when someone...
Well, no, I mean, the FBI had no system to track missing children. So they had no idea the actual number of missing children. They were not linking up among their various offices. They were not helping to find these kids. They weren't working alongside local law enforcement. I mean, they were really across the board dropping the ball.
Yeah.
On finding missing children.
And that's a problem. So you have a police department who's underprepared, or ill-prepared in many ways, and then unwilling to ask for help. But even if they do, the FBI really doesn't have the proper resources to offer or mindset to offer the help. That's crazy.
The Walshes learned that in Virginia, there was a pilot program that some people were trying to start. It would compile dangerous criminals like killers and sex offenders into a database. Yet they couldn't get this up and running because no one was interested in it. This pilot program in Virginia.
So you already have someone trying to correct some of these problems, but they're not getting any traction.
In places like Louisville, Kentucky, a Baptist minister and social worker, along with a judge who at the time was named Mitch McConnell. Well, I guess that's still his name, but he was a judge then.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, little turtly Mitch McConnell.
I'd hate to go in front of Mitch McConnell in court.
I imagine he's like Judge Spaulding from the Caddyshack movie.
Yeah.
I gave a 14-year-old boy the death penalty. I didn't want to do it, but I felt it's what he needed. It was what's best for him. Okay, so we've got Judge Mitch McConnell working alongside this minister, and they're looking into reasons why children had run away from home, because there were a large group of missing kids, and most of them were identified as runaways, even though now we know that's not always the case.
Well, no.
Not all of these missing children were runaways.
Well, that's just a loaded phrase, right? They use that to describe almost anything that happens with a child, and it really puts the responsibility back on the child, right? They ran away. There's nothing else going on. We're not looking for scary criminals. It's their fault, right? It's something between the parents and the kids. It really flings the responsibility back at the family, which is kind of messed up.
Right. Well, looking into some of the reasons why these children had gone missing, whether it was running away or whatever, they were able to connect many of the missing children to the Louisville sex industry. So they organized a task force to look into this problem, and the task force grew statewide. Arrests were being made, and within 3 years, there were 28 successful major prosecutions of sex traffickers.
Wow. Look how that works.
John and Reve attended a 4-day conference held in Louisville where they were able to connect with these folks and others who were working to find missing children. And this was really unique. It was kind of like the first conference of its kind. But it did bring together folks across the country who were trying to aid in this cause.
Well, yeah, you have all these different small groups trying to get some traction, trying to do something to make some change. So I'm sure this was a bit of an exciting moment for them to actually feel like you're getting somewhere.
Well, and meeting other people, listening to their stories, pilot programs they've started,
networking,
how they're what they're doing, how they're operating their nonprofit agency. Because the nonprofit that the Walshes started, it took off really fast. Reve was flying by the seat of her pants. I mean, she had no idea how to run a nonprofit. This was something completely brand new. And, without even doing much research, she just sort of jumped in with both feet.
I've been considering starting a nonprofit myself. Yeah. Would you like to know the mission statement of it?
I probably don't.
Is the nonprofit, our mission goal, our mission statement is for Dylan to not have to go back to work tomorrow. And so we're really scrambling to try to get things in place to maybe make that happen. So anyone out there.
So you're saying it's like a charitable fund for a man with special needs?
Yes, actually.
And you can take that however you want.
You read the brochure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, wow. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Anyway, just hit us up at mountainmerspodcast@gmail.com if you would like to volunteer.
With some money.
Yeah.
With some cash donations. What are they volunteering to do? They want to volunteer to babysit you?
They're volunteering to help me
Would
not go.
Would someone like to give me a vacation from Dylan? And so we'll pack his little bag.
What's your nonprofit called?
We'll get his little suitcase that's like going to grandma's.
Yeah.
And I'll pack it for your little things for you because I'll have to pack it. Otherwise, you'll end up with like no clothes. Like a sock.
I'll move in trash bags.
Suitcase because I've seen how you pack for vacations. So I'll help you pack a little bag, Dylan, and our listener who volunteers can come swing by, or I could meet them, and then they can take you and babysit you for a few days or a couple weeks and just like give me a break.
It's like a play date,
Sorta.
but for like days on end.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's part of the nonprofit that we're starting. It's charitable work, Dylan.
I
Like
see.
I said, they're helping a man with special needs.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about you running with this. You know what I mean? I thought there'd be more pushback.
They knew they needed to find someone who could help structure the group and really kind of give them the rundown on what it takes to run a nonprofit, or,
You know, I've never actually thought about that, and I guess there's probably a lot more to it than you could imagine.
Well, yeah, I'm sure there's like compliance, so a lot of red tape with the government, getting your tax, your 503C
Yeah.
tax information.
Well, tracking the funds, making sure where they're going.
Yeah, being able to audit the money,
Yeah.
all that. Plus organizing volunteers and deciding like how you're going to divvy up the workload and what exactly is the mission of your nonprofit. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah.
So like I said, they're looking for someone who can help kind of structure this group, and they team up with another Florida man named Denny Abbott, who ran a group called Child Advocacy. Abbott was, with his group, would help like advocate for children like in the court system, almost like guardian ad litem stuff. When kids were required to testify, his group pushed for like video testimony so that like a child didn't have to go face their abuser in court.
Oh, wow.
Kind of working with kids in that way.
I agree with that. You know, I think any victim of violent or sexual crimes of that nature, that should be the standard. Because, and I understand, you know, people might say, well, you have a constitutional right to face your accuser in court and all that. But, I mean, you really have to consider everyone in a situation like that. Because, I mean, you can literally re-traumatize a victim by just putting them in the same room as their abuser.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Well, in the end, they decided to merge the two groups, agreeing on common goals, and they could pool their resources. So now they're merging with Child Advocacy. In the meantime, John was trying to get meetings on the Hill with powerful leadership in Washington. Frustrations grew because John was met with a lot of pushback, as I mentioned. Senate staffers would tell John that no one would support a missing children's bill. They were confident the FBI was doing its job and that this was unnecessary. Also, the FBI had refused to help with the Missing Children's Act. Like, they did not want this act passed because they felt like it was undermining their authority or something.
Gosh, you know, this is making me have conspiracy theories.
But they're literally failing to help.
Like, is there a reason you don't want a system in place to track and help find missing children?
CIA the keepers.
Oh, my gosh.
That's a conspiracy to look into. Now, John Walsh even managed to get thrown out of the Justice Department after crashing a press conference. And I just have to say, the balls on this man. I love his audacity.
Well, I do too.
I mean, he is relentless. He basically crashes this press conference, and before the conference has started, there's a podium, microphones, tons of reporters around. He just takes over the podium and starts speaking.
No, I like this. I like this move because you're already in front of the press and everyone's there, so, you know, they kind of can't just throw you out. You know
but they do. So he's talking to reporters. He's laying it all out there. He's talking about this Missing Children's Act and, how these folks at the Justice, how these people were just like refusing to help find missing kids. Right. So the security, I guess you could say, at the Justice Department, like, basically hauled him out and like kicked him out on his ear.
Wow.
Onto the street. And we're like, we just can't even believe you would do something like that. It was very inappropriate.
Well, yeah, because let's be honest, these press conferences are very curated. They're very seldom, especially when you're dealing with lawmakers, very seldom do you get anything genuine out of it, you know? Everything is, they got their handlers and their staff and everyone going over stuff. And I really think that's one of the worst parts of our system here in America.
You mean bureaucracy?
Yeah, Well, and this is not just in America. It happens in many countries. You're not being genuine, right? You want everything you want to be in control of what's going to be asked so you can be prepared to answer, and that's why when you do see moments of authenticity kind of drip through the system, people really notice, right?
Yeah.
Because you get it, it's very seldom that you get that.
4 months after Adam's death, Reve learned she was pregnant. Before Adam had been taken, the couple had discussed bringing in a second child into the world.
Okay.
Growing their little family. So, this was kind of a bittersweet moment for them.
Well, and also I have to remember that it came out that she had a bit of an affair there. So this I can't imagine dealing with all this at once. You know what I'm saying?
It's a lot, Dylan.
No, it is.
But Reve learned she's pregnant. Losing Adam had been so tough. I think the couple initially were not quite sure how to proceed. How is this going to work? We have another child. Folks were telling them well, you need to get rid of Adam's stuff. It'll help you move on. Trying to be helpful.
Right. But at the same time, it's kind of like, who are you to tell me that?
Well, right. But the birth of their daughter, Megan, brought a renewed sense of joy to their lives. It was kind of the first time since Adam's death that they were starting, that they experienced joy and were kind of feeling, happy.
Well, yeah, I'm sure.
Obviously, they have this little girl, this little daughter.
And they were already it sounds like they were already talking about expanding their family. And so I think in many ways this would be a good thing for them.
Another positive came 2 months later in September of 1982 when the House of Representatives approved a version of the Missing Children's Act. 4 days later, the Senate followed. In October of 1982, 15 months after Adam was lost, Congress passed the Missing Children Act. The Walshes were invited to the Rose Garden at the White House where President Ronald Reagan signed the bill into law.
Now, I have to say that given that time frame, 15 months, less than a year and a half, that shows the tenacity that they approached this with, because that's moving quickly.
Oh, John's a bulldog.
Yeah, that's moving quickly.
He really, the minute this happened, he dedicated his life to this cause. He was not going to let his child die in vain.
That's amazing.
And he really wanted to honor Adam's memory and help other families. So it was proof that the heartbroken family with no money or power could organize a group of passionate, caring people who could get out there and make a difference. And they got this bill passed. They don't have money. They don't have backing. They're not professional lobbyists. But it shows that if you've got your heart in it, you can affect change.
Well, yeah, and I think this should be the way it is. It should come from a place of passion and need for the nation or communities, and it shouldn't just be about who has bigger pockets, right?
ABC's 2020 had sent a film crew to follow the Walshes, kind of documenting some of their lobbying efforts, getting this nonprofit up and running. Just after the Missing Children Act passed, 2020 ran a piece on it. With positive feedback, there was an idea to make a documentary, but that ended up turning into a movie of the week, which was a really popular kind of new thing to take over TV.
Well, yeah, because, nowadays people kind of view them as it was just cheesy, but they really did take real life events quickly and cheaply, turn it into a movie of the week, if you will, and it got people talking, right? It really put real issues in front of eyeballs.
It did. I remember being a kid and all of the water cooler talk, if you will, was about the made-for-TV movie, I Know My First Name is Steven.
Right.
About the Steven Stainer case.
Yeah.
I also remember the Ryan White story.
Yes, I remember both of those.
Child who ended up with a blood transfusion, contracted AIDS, and, really brought attention to the issue that it was not just affecting, the gay community.
Yeah.
because there was a lot of stigma. Oh, well, it's just affecting homosexuals. And it's like, no, anybody can catch it, even a child, through no fault of his own, meaning he's not a drug user and he's not
Having promiscuous sex.
Yeah, I mean, he's a kid and he has a blood transfusion. So this can happen to any of us.
No, and that was very impactful. But, I remember thinking back then, given the AIDS situation, like, shouldn't we care if gay people are getting it?
Well,
you know
I totally get that.
I mean, if prostitutes are getting it, shouldn't we still be like, hey, we don't want you to get AIDS?
Well, yeah, I mean.
But no, I see what you're saying, though.
Yeah.
But that's totally true.
Well, I mean, that at the time, I mean, that's how people were, they were so dismissive and they didn't care. I mean.
No, they didn't.
I mean, we know, looking back, I mean, it was a shit show.
Well, I know you felt the same way. I'm not saying that, but yeah.
No, Dylan, I was cheering them on. Another one bites the dust.
That's right.
Sitting on my porch with my shotgun.
That's
No,
right.
dude,
That's what bathroom sex gets
I
you.
mean, come on. Yeah, says the men who probably are having closeted bathroom sex. Okay,
Right.
So the movie starred Dan Travanti, who I guess he'd been on Hill Street Blues, which was a popular TV show at the time.
Okay.
And Jo Beth Williams as Reve. Jo Beth Williams famously in the Poltergeist movie.
So they're bringing out the big guns
The
in the movie of
Poltergeist
the
mom.
week. Yeah.
Well, they started filming this in June of 1983. It was an emotional experience for everyone involved, including the Walshes, who were, of course, on set and kind of helping consult on the film. The filmmaker Linda Otto, who had directed that 2020 episode, wanted John to meet the head of NBC. They had some ideas for an interactive television show like nothing that had ever been done before. And at the end of the show, they were going to offer an 800 number that could provide leads and tips so that viewers could call in with information. The show would feature photos of missing kids. Now, at first, executives weren't interested because the show didn't seem like it would make any money. And they're all about the bottom dollar.
Well, and I understand
The bottom line.
to a certain degree, they have to be. It costs. You have, budgets and costs to make a show. But I think they had no idea what this would turn into.
But the head of NBC said he would find the money and that they were going to make it work. So just hold on to that thought, because it's going to take a few years for this really to marinate. Adam, the made-for-TV movie, aired on October 10th of 1983. That night, Florida Department of Law Enforcement organized a hotline with a phone, like a 50-phone bank, if you will. And at the end of this movie, photographs of 55 missing children played. So you got to figure those faces of these missing children reached over 40 million viewers who turned in for this made-for-TV movie.
40 million?
40 million.
Holy cow.
Now, you got to remember, Dylan, this is at a time when entertainment was quite limited.
No, it was, but still, I mean, nowadays, they would give their left arm to get numbers like that.
I mean, maybe Jimmy Kimmel, since he's got like 1 million viewers or something.
No, I'm saying just those are Super Bowl numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing.
No, it's a large chunk of people. Well, again, those made-for-TV movies were wildly popular at the time, and there was not a lot of entertainment or choice out there. You basically had 3 big networks that you could see shows, and that was it. So a lot of people tuning in for this. The toll-free number was on the screen for only 10 seconds, but calls began rolling in. Over 100 calls came in per hour over the next 3 days. Of those 55 missing children, 13 were located and reunited with their families.
That's crazy.
Adam became one of the highest-rated made-for-television movies ever. The movie was rebroadcast twice, and each time more children were recovered.
And I mean, look at that. Just like that, they proved that this works, right? That getting it in front of the people, giving people a chance, having some kind of organized effort to put these faces out there, it's working.
The Walsh's nonprofit was pushing for pilot programs to fingerprint school children as a form of ID. Do you remember this, Dylan? I remember as a kid, law enforcement came in and we did a fingerprint card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember it. I think it was called Identikid.
I just remember there was like a little dog, like a little bloodhound or something, was it wearing like a trench coat, was like I guess kind of like a logo for this missing kids
Was
program.
it McGruff the crime dog?
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't remember.
He's
Probably.
taking a bite out of crime. Oh my gosh.
So they wanted to fingerprint school children as a form of identification. They wanted to run educational programs at the school, stranger danger, that kind of stuff. And they also started something called the Cracked Gavel Award, which would be given to judges who handed down light or suspended sentences to pedophiles.
Damn.
Probably what we need today.
Putting them on Blast Street.
Well, you need to put these judges on Blast Street.
Well,
They're ridiculous.
why? I just don't understand how.
Oh, hey, you murdered somebody? Oh, it's okay. Well, let's give you 18 months suspended probation.
Well, I'm going to give you a 17-year sentence with 14 years suspended.
Yeah.
I mean, what the fuck? We saw that just the other day.
We were watching the first 48. And It was an older episode, but we were blown away. We're like, what the hell?
What the hell? Because for one, I was like, well, damn, considering what happened, I think 17 years is not enough. But then you see that like 85% of that suspended. Like, what are you even doing?
Yeah, so the perpetrator of a cold-blooded murder,
For no
a premeditated
Yeah.
first-degree murder, is going to serve 5 years.
Not even,
Probably
though.
not even.
Yeah, probably 2 to 3 maybe.
Okay. Don't get me riled up, Dylan.
Oh my gosh.
On July 22nd of 1983, John and Reve filed lawsuit against the Sears store and the Hollywood Mall for their negligence in contributing to Adam's death. The whole idea was to use any money from the lawsuit award to fund the nonprofit's coffers. The lawyers hired by Sears were brutal, and they put the Walshes through like horrible depositions. Just demeaning, degrading, asking them the most personal questions, painting them as just like these piece of shit people.
See, what's that got to do with anything? Personal questions about myself. What does that have to do with the fact that, like I said, I can't believe, even though this young girl was doing what she thought was her job, putting children outside of a store is your protocol. I mean, that's weird to me.
Now, get this, Dylan. One of those lawyers told John Walsh that he didn't care about the Missing Children's Act or that their son had been decapitated.
Oh, damn, dude.
That his mission was to destroy them.
Okay.
And that's what he was going to do. So they couldn't get any money.
I would put my hands on that person.
I would
be hard pressed not to.
They would have to surgically remove my foot from this man's ass.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, they ended up dropping the lawsuit after being raked over the coals, not only by the lawyers, but by the press. Remember I said Reve's outfit would come into question? This leotard?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the lawyers painted her like she was some whore walking around in a leotard. Like she was scantily clad, that it was so irresponsible, that she's a big old slut. She's wearing this revealing outfit, so obviously she's a piece of shit, and it's her fault directly that her son went missing.
That doesn't
because she's wearing this outfit. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
No, but it doesn't surprise me because I did grow up in this time, and
people are still fucking like this. So
they are, but it was even worse in the public arena because now they have to be a little more subversive with this type of an attack. But no, this is what they did to women. They did this to women in so many different cases and times and situations. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter if she just came fresh from a freaking circle jerk, dude, and then got her kid and went to the store. That doesn't change the facts of what happened, right? It doesn't matter.
Well, she didn't take her son out and cut his head off.
No, I'm saying it doesn't matter if she is a big old whore, which she's obviously not. You know what I'm saying? But that's just slanderous, and it's what they do. This is their game plan, to wreck a woman's character or wreck the parent's character, and then kind of just somehow make everything else their fault. I don't understand how that works, but that's what they would do.
Yeah, I know. Like, for example, back when John took a polygraph exam, he had been really honest with law enforcement and admitted that, when he was younger, he had experimented with marijuana. He had taken LSD, acid, whatever, back in the day. I mean, he's grown up in like the 60s and 70s, so
right.
It's not totally out of the ordinary for folks, I guess, of that generation to do those things. So they're like painting them like they're just these big drug addicts. They're cokeheads. I mean, just crazy stuff. And, you know, they really painted Reve in a bad light, even suggesting, you know, that she had somehow been responsible for Adam's murder. They brought Jimmy Campbell into the deposition, interviewing him. They're exposing the affair. I mean, it's just
ridiculous.
Mudslinging.
Yeah.
Really. Dragging this family through the mud for no reason other than they just don't want to pay out any fucking money. Now, in the year or so after Adam's death, the investigation led to questioning potential suspects, including at least 2 known pedophiles. One of the suspects had a collection of audio cassettes which recorded the voices of child victims crying, screaming, and pleading while being raped and tortured.
Oh my God.
Police asked John to listen to these audio cassettes in order to identify if Adam's voice was on the tapes. The task made John physically sick. After he listened to these audio recordings, he immediately went to the bathroom and started throwing up.
That's insane. This seems like something that's inappropriate.
Well, it does, but I guess they were just grasping at straws here, Dylan. They don't, much like the initial investigation into Adam's disappearance, where Hollywood police is just sort of dropping the ball, kind of doing the same thing with the murder investigation. I mean, they don't have any leads. They're just trying everything they can, right?
Right. And that shouldn't surprise you, I don't guess.
But I can't imagine listening to these audio cassettes. I mean, I don't know. John Walsh, he's got to be like a very special kind of person to have been able to sit through that.
No.
Potentially knowing your child could be one of those victims.
Well, and even if your child's not, hearing other victims in this.
That as well.
Yeah, I mean, I just couldn't even imagine the listening. I've actually not ever heard anything directly like that, but I've been down some rabbit holes about human trafficking, and I have come across some questionable audio before that's supposedly something along this line, and very quickly I was like, oh my God, I don't even know where I'm at on the internet right now, and this is not something I want to hear.
Well, even with what is it, like the toy box killer, the guy who had like that, or the toolbox killer. He
the
had like
recordings?
Yes.
He would leave his victims when they woke up?
Yeah, I can't even listen to that shit.
Freaking terrifying.
So,
because it's like straight out of a freaking Saw movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's so scary.
It's fucked up. Now, in the meantime, John is lobbying in Washington, D.C. for the passing of a second piece of legislation that would add to the Missing Children's Act. He's also trying to work and keep up with bills. I mean, I told you the family's in like financial turmoil at this point. Plus, they've got this nonprofit. John had been paying out of pocket to travel to Washington, D.C. to meet with politicians, staying in motels. I mean, he's doing this all out of pocket. So, you know, the family's basically broke. Also, John's learning more about pedophiles and how there were thousands of identified bodies across the United States. So if a person turns up, you know, dead and they're unidentified, if they don't have a criminal record or, you know, fingerprints on file, it's nearly impossible to ID them.
Right.
Also, the fingerprints had to be sent to the FBI for matching, and there was this really long backlog. So it could take, you know, months or years to get an ID on a Jane or John Doe.
Yeah, and I'm guessing they're still doing human comparisons.
Oh, that's absolutely what they're doing.
There's no CODIS, there's no systems in place, no databases in place that we might take for granted to a certain degree nowadays. And these things matter, you know. And I mean, look how they backlog these things nowadays and how long it takes. So I can only imagine having to wait, you know, months or even years to even get a proper analysis done of the fingerprints you sent in.
Well, with this newfound knowledge about pedophiles, again, the country didn't really understand what that was. It was not in the forefront of people's minds. It was not being discussed. A lot of people had no idea what the term meant. The concept of molesting a child. There were people who just like could not wrap their head around this concept.
Right.
Like it was foreign and they just didn't even believe it was happening, right? So John's like, he's very aware of this stuff now because, again, he was really naive to these crimes. When he testified again before a congressional committee, he brings up the group NAMBLA, which advocated for man-boy love.
It's the North American Man-Boy Love Association.
Yeah.
I don't even know how
it's a group or organized group advocating for pedophilia.
I don't even know how this is a thing that's allowed for someone to speak about. Does you know what I'm saying? Now, their position is children can choose to have
children can consent.
Consent, and I'm not sure if. Gosh, it's so sick. You have prepubescent and postpubescent, and I think these people may advocate for relationships with postpubescent young people.
It's just, it doesn't matter.
It's fucking disgusting, okay?
I don't care. It's
no,
gross,
I don't either,
regardless.
but it is. It's really sick. It pisses me off. God.
Well, John was also telling them about these underground child pornography rings.
So he's really getting, it's almost like that movie 8mm, right? He's going to, he's investigating this, for his son, about his son, but he's literally getting launched into the underbelly of this dark subculture, right? That he probably had no idea existed in any form.
Right. I mean, someone had shown John a pedophile newsletter in which a person had written a love note to Adam Walsh. It was sick shit.
Oh, my God.
I mean, here's John reading this about his son, and some sick fuck has written this shit, talking about how cute the little gap, his little missing tooth was. I mean, just gross, right? I'm sure he was not only, like, sickened by it, but angered.
Yeah.
Right. So, and a lot of these politicians had no idea, allegedly, that these kinds of things were going on. Because and I guess that's true because a lot of folks didn't know this was happening.
Well, see, okay, that's where a politician and their staff come into play. When someone comes to you saying, "Hey, we need this legislation to help exploited and missing children," you might be like, "Well, hey, I don't know much about that. I'm going to look into it." And very quickly, with their connections to law enforcement, the FBI, to government, they could have found out this information very quickly.
Right, and there were these underground, like, pedophile rings, and they were selling CSAM material, Polaroids, photographs, home videos, distributing newsletters. And that still happens today, but it's moved to the internet.
Yeah, that was all physical media.
Some of it to the dark web. But there's still some, I guess, just you can find on the internet. And people are using apps like Kik and Discord to disseminate this shit.
Well, yeah, you have these end-to-end encrypted apps. Some you've never heard of. Some more popular, like you said, that you have heard of. I've never heard anything good about Kik. I've said this before. I would never advise you to let your kids on there. But it's everywhere now.
It's
everywhere.
everywhere.
It's anything that has a chat option. You're going to find these sickos there fishing for kids and victims. Twitch, Kik, WhatsApp, Roblox, which is literally for little kids for the most part.
TikTok, YouTube.
Yeah, I know. I saw a guy who made a new Roblox character, and in less than an hour, he saw inappropriate stuff or he was acting like a 10 or 11-year-old. And in less than an hour, he was basically accosted by a sicko.
Well, I remember a few years ago, there was a lot of uproar on TikTok about a social media content creator there, often featuring her very young daughter, like a toddler daughter, in what people felt like were very inappropriate situations.
Yeah.
Like the little girl eating a hot dog, and it's like kind of
suggestive,
gross and suggestive. And the big problem was like the comments were disgusting, and like these men saying just the grossest, nastiest, fucked up shit. And this mom just keeps putting this shit out there, like knowingly.
Because she's getting money off of it.
Money off of it.
Yeah, well, even before it was TikTok, it was Musical.ly. And I remember very early on, it was kids dancing and stuff, young people dancing. That's what a lot of the content was. And there were accusations early on of a big part of the audience just being creeps, being weirdos, watching these young girls or young boys dancing and talking crazy. It's really disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, there's videos on YouTube of little girls sunbathing, dancing in bikinis, and they're 5, 6 years old. I mean, gymnastics, and it's very much centered toward for pedophiles.
Right.
This content.
Jeez, I mean,
the willingness of people to put their kids out there and exploit them in this way is fucking sick.
If you'll exploit your child for clicks like this in any form or fashion,
there's no telling what you'll do.
No, you're that person who will rent your kid out. I mean, you are.
I agree.
I mean, you're a sick bastard like that woman that was with that Canadian serial killer who offered up her own sister to him.
Oh, you're talking about the homuncles. Carla and Paul Burnett was, I don't know, the Ken and Barbie couple.
Yeah. I mean, it's disgusting.
Well, finally, the FBI, after feeling the pressure from certain, government officials, like political leadership, the Walshes, John Walsh, the FBI agrees that they're going to start taking a proactive role in the investigations of missing children. The children's information would now be listed into the NCIC computer system. If a local agency failed to enter the information into this database, parents could officially request that the FBI add their children's information, for them, and the FBI would do that.
Well, see, this begs the question, if this is what you're agreeing to do now, what were you doing before when you thought you had everything covered and were doing such a great job? Because it sounds to me like you were doing jack shit.
Well, it changed some things as well, Dylan. From now on, there would be no need to wait 24 hours to file a missing persons report. As soon as the Bureau was requested to help in a missing child's case, they would offer immediate assistance.
So these are big changes.
Yeah, John was also invited to speak before a Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on Juvenile Justice. They were holding a hearing on something called the VICAP program, which was the Violent Criminal Apprehension Program. It was a nationwide computerized system that would keep track of information about violent offenders, violent crimes. It used all the details and kind of cataloged it. This way, the FBI's behavioral psychologists could use it to put together profiles of the worst offenders. They could also recognize if there were certain crimes happening, maybe in certain areas of the country, possibly connecting it to one perpetrator. Just finding those patterns that they could, recognition.
Yeah.
Among some of the serial killers, for example. On July 12th of 1983, John testified in support of the few million dollars needed to set up VICAP. Ann Rule, who had written about Ted Bundy, also testified on the new breed of killer in the country, the serial killer. John believed Adam was probably killed by one of those monsters. In the early 1980s, people were still reeling from stories of the Atlanta child killer, the Candyman, Dean Corll in Houston, Ted Bundy, and John Wayne Gacy. John didn't know if a program like VICAP might have saved Adam's life, but it would have provided investigators more tools to utilize, during their investigation, he felt. John had learned pedophilia was a lot more common than the public was aware. Adam's case didn't happen in a vacuum. There were other children who'd been abducted and murdered by pedophiles, and he really believes that it was this kind of person who took his son.
Well, honestly, how could he not?
That it wasn't just some random kind of thing. That it was a sicko.
Well, look what was done to his son.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, how could you not think it was only a monster could do this?
Now politicians, including President Reagan, wanted a national center for missing children. They told John he could either run it or be involved as a consultant. The family ended up moving to Washington, D.C., and John took a job working as a consultant to the Justice Department. John was seeing success. They had been getting a lot of state bills passed for missing children. And some of these bills required things like background checks for people who worked with children, worked in daycare centers, bus drivers.
Well, and I think this goes to show you how big a deal this was back then. And this, for our listeners who maybe don't remember this or are a little younger, this is what we were speaking about before, how it really changed the nation,
Getting
changed society.
sex offender registries created.
Yeah, you're seeing laws, multiple laws change at the national and state level all over the country.
Finally, on June 13th of 1984, the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children, a private organization, was temporarily funded by a $3.3 million grant from the Justice Department. The Walsh family returned to the White House for the opening ceremony. President Reagan held the ceremony in the East Room of the White House. So this is like, the second or third time that the family's like kind of hobnobbing with the president, right?
Right.
In his speech, John said, quote, "I beseech you not to assume it couldn't happen to you. It has happened to thousands of children and parents. We are all responsible for all the children." After the birth of their third child, a boy, the couple decided to leave Washington, D.C. and return to Florida. Reve just wasn't feeling it up there. She actually described D.C. as living in a prison.
Well, I'm sure it's a bit of a culture shock for her, right? They're coming from living at the beach.
Yes, beautiful sunny
Florida, into kind of, dreary Washington with a lot of people describe it has weird energy there, a very different, particular kind of energy. Some may even describe it as dark. I've heard that many times. And I'm sure it's probably they're tired, right? Because they've been on this roller coaster from the day her son goes missing to now. Look what all they've done and all the energy they've outputted.
Absolutely. And it means she's had her third child. So they've got these two little kids. They're in a strange city.
Right.
She's at home with the kids all the time. Not really getting out and about, not socializing, trying to get this nonprofit up and running, and working with that. I'm sure it was just like not a good experience, and she wanted to be back home among friends and family.
I can't blame her.
Familiar surroundings. I understand that. In the mid-1980s, a dairy company began putting photographs of missing children on milk cartons. A drug chain offered to do the same thing with shopping bags. Photos of two boys, Johnny Ghosh and Eugene Martin, were the first displayed. Soon, milk carton advertising began in other places like Chicago and California. In late 1984, the nonprofit National Child Safety Council began a nationwide program called the Missing Children Milk Carton Program in the United States. And by the mid-1990s, the program became obsolete with the creation of the Amber Alert system. But this campaign brought attention to the idea of stranger danger. Now, it has been recognized that most children who were abducted in the 1980s, these were not stranger abductions, but rather non-custodial parent abductions. The program didn't necessarily help bring home missing kids, but it did help spread awareness and was very memorable.
Man, can we say Johnny Ghosh? I mean, gosh, what a big case. What a big story that ties in.
Twists and turns.
That ties back into the Franklin child sex scandal, right?
The CIA.
I want to say
the keepers.
I mean, that's you talking about a rabbit hole. You go down that one. It's insane.
Well, we covered the Franklin.
I know, but
earlier, back in a couple early episodes.
It's just it's crazy. The accusations, the
proof.
The proof. You have all these young people, swearing that some of these things have happened to them. They've been trafficked,
but instead of believing them, we punish them and put them in prison.
Yeah, they end up doing more time than the guy who was stealing all the money
and trafficking the kids.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Oh well, that's just kind of the way our government works, right?
Yeah. destroy.
But again, Dylan, there's like no dark cabal of child predators in our government or anything.
Oh, no.
They just love to cover it up.
That's just a conspiracy theory.
You're just crazy.
There couldn't be some haven in the world where pedophiles flock to be protected from.
No, there's no country where they are not extradited. What are you talking about? That we give millions and billions of dollars to every year. There's also not a creepy guy who had a whole island where, young women were trafficked. I mean, gosh, that's just ridiculous.
Oh, you mean the guy who had absolutely no talent but just seemed to have the Midas touch the entire time?
No. What are you talking about?
It was just him, though. No one else was involved. Oh, gosh, let's get back to it.
There was no, what are you talking, there was no list.
Just.
I know we've been talking about the list for like some years now.
What list?
But it doesn't exist. I mean, we've said the words Epstein's list, but we're also going to gaslight you and tell you it just doesn't exist. Yeah. All right, moving along. I mean, basically what we're saying is that you can't trust any politician. They're all trash. And the government is lying to you.
In one way or the other, that's true.
And they're bending you over and fucking you with no grease. Because that's what they do.
God, they don't even spit on it anymore.
No.
No,
and these parasocial relationships that people have with politicians, like they really trust and believe. It doesn't matter which party you're part of.
No.
If you're like bootlicking politicians, like you need your head checked. Because, I mean, by now you should know they're like all pieces of shit. And they don't really care about you.
You see so much, okay, we'll get back to it, but you see so much arguing on so many issues in this country, and it is us against them. It's the elite versus us.
If only we could unite.
It's the 99 versus the 1.
And overthrow the 1. Okay, so by 1986, there had been no movement in Adam's case. No arrests had been made. One reason was due to police in Jacksonville having run across a drifter named Otis Elwood Toole.
Oh, my God.
On October 13th of 1983, newspapers around the country announced that police had found the man responsible for killing Adam Walsh. The stories of Toole, who'd be arrested in a fatal arson in Jacksonville, had told police he was responsible for between 30 to 50 homicides around the country. He claimed one of his victims had been Adam Walsh. Toole had made a confession admitting that he had picked up Adam from outside the Hollywood Mall, lured the boy into his car, and then killed him. Other than that, law enforcement remained tight-lipped, not giving out any more details, not even to the Walshes.
Now, I do not remember this when it broke. I don't remember this part of the story at all.
Do you actively remember 1983?
Do I actively remember 1983? Well, I was 5.
You don't remember what happened last Tuesday.
Well, I was 5, and I did read the paper every day, so I don't know how this got past me. No, I don't remember hearing about this part of the story later on in life when I was cognizant of true crime. So thank you for taking me down this path.
Doesn't surprise me.
I don't.
There's a lot of stuff you don't know.
Wait, what were we talking about?
Yeah,
Wait,
exactly,
what?
Exactly. Well, that's why I'm here, Dylan, to educate you,
Yeah.
to tell everyone the whole story. Toole had made a confession admitting, as I mentioned, that he had picked the child up. Now, he had been traveling with a man named Henry Lee Lucas, another serial killer who was at the time in a Texas prison. Lucas claimed he had killed 150 people. Eventually, I think that gets up into like 6,000 or some crazy number, but we're not going to talk about Henry Lee right now.
1 million people.
Now, Henry Lee, I'm going to just say this real quick. He is born and raised in Appalachia.
Okay.
He is a native of Blacksburg, Virginia.
So you brought it full circle. It comes all the way back to the Appalachians.
It sure does. And I'm thinking, Dylan, we may need to cover Henry Lee Lucas. His childhood is a fucked up true crime story in itself.
It is. Just
much less what he did later in life.
The little bit you've told me, and I know some of our listeners are like, wait a minute, because he was known to maybe kind of embellish and, but he did do some terrible things. That there's no doubt about that.
Now, according to law enforcement, Toole's stories were, quote, grisly and heinous beyond belief. But during interviews, the only time he ever showed any remorse or emotion was when discussing the Adam Walsh murder. Toole would break down into tears. Hollywood police announced that Toole would be charged in Adam's murder, but then years passed with no arrest. Otis Toole was never indicted for this crime. Otis Toole had recanted his confession a few times. He kept changing his story. Dylan, I have read through Otis Toole's police interviews, and there's a few of them. It's like, a total of like 96 pages.
Okay.
And I painstakingly read through all the police reports.
Sounds like a tough read.
Well, I can just tell you, like, he's not the best communicator.
Okay.
Okay.
And he's maybe not the brightest guy.
Maybe not, but we're going to talk about him. Now, at the time, Otis Toole was drinking and using Quaaludes. His memories are fuzzy due to the drug and alcohol use. At times, he claimed Henry Lee Lucas was with him when Adam was killed, but the timeline proved otherwise. Henry Lee was actually in jail at the time that Adam was kidnapped and murdered.
So he could not have been with Otis.
Right, but then Otis later admitted that he had been alone when kidnapping Adam. Toole told investigators that he had buried Adam's remains along the Florida Turnpike, then tossed the boy's head in a canal further down the highway. There was no evidence to link him to the murder, no trace of Adam, and really no sign that Toole had been involved at all. What they had was circumstantial evidence.
Well, yeah, they have his confession, basically. And, that wasn't the first and only crime him or Henry Lee Lucas had confessed to.
Well, they did have some witnesses. They had timelines.
Okay.
I mean, some of it matched up.
Okay.
Now, John at first didn't really believe that Otis Toole was the killer, and it seems neither did law enforcement. Not really. But I read through those interview transcripts, as I mentioned, and something I will note is a detective with the Jacksonville Police Department who had known Otis Toole for over 18 years and had dealt with him time and time again for petty crimes, whatever. He said that one thing he knew about Otis Toole was that he didn't lie. And in all the times Toole had been arrested, he would fess up to whatever he had done. But if you tried to maybe pin something else on him, he would be like, no, I didn't do that one, but I did this one. I mean, the guy's like, I just don't think he takes credit for things he didn't do, kind of unlike Henry Lee Lucas.
So in his experience with this guy for many years,
yes,
he's saying that he's, when it comes down to his confessing to a crime, that he's being honest. As far as he can tell.
Mostly been honest that he can tell. And the detective believed that the fact that Toole had such a low IQ, that he was almost incapable of intentionally lying.
Okay.
Or like manipulating people.
Right. He's not some grand mastermind.
No. So he did think that Toole was responsible for Adam's murder. And it was the only time that Toole would ever cry or show remorse when talking about Adam.
So if you were to ask this guy, why does his story change, or why maybe the details are fuzzy, maybe you could just attribute that to the drug.
Well, he would say in the interviews, well, I was drinking a whole lot then.
Right, but I'm saying that could be attributed to his drugs and alcohol. Now, and Quaaludes are very powerful narcotic. I think you hear a lot of people talk about.
I don't know nothing about ludes.
I don't. I mean, they were long gone. I've never, obviously seen ludes, but just hearing people talk about using them, you would black out, or you would not remember what the hell happened the night before. If you got messed up on Quaaludes, let alone mixing with alcohol. I'm sure.
Why would that even be fun to take something that you like black out? Like you don't even remember if you had a good time.
I don't know.
What fun is that?
And
doesn't really make sense.
No, I want to remember being high. Used to. When I got high.
Then one day a letter arrived postmarked from Stark Prison near Jacksonville. The letter was from Otis Toole, and trust me when I say it is disgusting. Toole demands money in exchange for locating Adam's remains. He says a bunch of filthy, nasty things in the letter. I mean, the guy's just a fucking creep.
Is this sent to the Walshes?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. All right. So we need to discuss further. We need to talk about Otis Toole, Dylan. Because this man is quite a character study.
He's a handsome devil, too.
Dude, he is fucking not. He looks like the epitome of a fucking creepy, gross predator.
He does.
And he's fucking weird, and he's like 6'7" and like 200 pounds and just like a big old monstrosity of a fucking weird man.
Is he that tall?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
I've only seen his face.
And he is not a looker. Okay.
No.
He has only a face that a mother could love, and I'm pretty sure his own mama didn't even love him. Okay.
So he's just a big old tall lanky creep.
He kind of looks like Lurch
Nah, yeah.
from the Addams Family, like a real life Lurch.
Right.
Yeah. Like that's what I imagine him as, just like being a creepy butler in a house where he's probably also going to like rape and murder you.
He's like, you rang.
He'll work for you, but he's also going to kill you at some point.
Damn.
Yeah. It's fucking weird looking. Just weird vibes. He was born March 5th of 1947. His parents were both raging alcoholics, Dylan. Otis was the youngest of 9 kids.
That's a lot of kids.
9.
I could not imagine.
His father abandoned the family pretty early on. Otis's mother had really wanted a girl, so when Otis was born, she was greatly disappointed. For most of his young life, his mother would dress him up in girls' clothing and call him Susan.
So here you got this tall, gangly kid walking around.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure he was really tall and gangly as a child, but...
Well, yeah, but I mean, when you got that kind of height, you get kind of weird and, well, not weird, but you get tall and lanky fairly quickly. So he's going around.
So he's going around looking like a big fucking ostrich or something.
Well, no, let's be serious about this. He's being forced by his mother to dress like a girl.
Yes.
Which is really messed up.
It is.
Right?
And she's calling him Susan.
Okay. I mean, because she wanted a girl, this is why she's doing
Yes.
this?
And you know what? I think, and like I said, we may do an episode on Henry Lee. One of the things that really bonded Lucas and Toole were the fact that they both had very similar childhoods, because Henry Lee Lucas's mother would also dress him up like a girl and make him go to school.
Oh, wow.
And she called him Henrietta.
God, I mean, what's the odds?
And it's just like, here's a serial killer starter kit.
No, it truly
Like,
is.
here's the blueprint for raising a murderer.
No, it really is. And I hate to, it seems to be the mom-son relationship, I think, has really, when you have a really bad mom, it really, I don't know what it does to certain people, but it really messes them up, right? It can help make them into a monster.
It definitely can. Now, Otis's father began trafficking him when he was 5 years old to men around the neighborhood, like selling the boy for sex while he's dressed up like Susan.
That's terrible.
Like Otis's father would host like a poker game at the house, for example, and would invite, men over to play poker. He would force Otis to like wait on the men, bring them beers, bring them food. Otis is also dressed like a girl.
Okay.
So you can imagine where it goes from there, with drunk men having access to this child and the dad being like, oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, see, here's the thing.
How about it?
When you describe something like that, and you got, okay, I can say, okay, his parents were fucking crazy. The fact that you can have a group of people who are okay with this happening.
Let me participate.
That's always blown my mind when
Yeah.
you have these insane, monstrous people, and then other people see them doing these things and not only don't do anything to stop it, but want to participate. I mean, it really speaks on just the depravity of human nature. So
It does, but I also think, dysfunction leads to dysfunction. I think if you are a dysfunctional family and you're living this fucked up dysfunctional life, other dysfunctional people tend to gravitate toward you, or you're friendly with other dysfunctional people because you don't really have a concept of like what's normal or acceptable.
I guess that's a valid point. It's almost like,
I mean, it's not that like, so-called normal families can't also have a neighbor who's a pedophile or whatever.
right, but they're not going to go hang out with them and do pedophile things with them. So
right.
I see what you're saying.
So I think a lot of times dysfunctional people attract dysfunctional people.
Well, case in point, our recent story on Pazuzu.
Yeah.
His friend group. They were all kind of fucked, right?
Yeah, it was kind of like a whole group of people who are just basically pieces of shit.
So that's why they can see or hear about dead bodies and not do anything about it.
Hey, man.
Because they're messed up too.
Cool. Can we do some drugs now? Yeah. So as a child, Otis was sexually abused by many close relatives, including an older sister and a next door neighbor. I guess you could say that Otis's young life was marred by trauma and dysfunctional family dynamics, Dylan.
Well, I mean, look, this is terrible. I mean, it's just terrible that he grew up like that. Now he goes on to do monstrous things, but it really...
Well, you can feel very sorry for the child because it's like this monster was created.
Well, it really is. It really is.
Like if you grew him in a lab, they've got all the elements to like create a fucking monster.
Well, yeah, like Carl Panzram was tempered in reform schools. He was created to a degree.
Charles Manson.
To be this just horrible, terrible, unempathetic creature who preys on weaker because he's been the weaker. He's been preyed upon so many times
Charles
before.
Manson.
Yeah, Charles Manson.
I mean, he's a tiny little feller, and he goes to juvie and is brutalized, and then he's like, all right, and I got to start doing this to other people.
Yeah.
What's also interesting, Dylan, is Manson, along with Lucas and Toole, and there's actually about 7 pretty well-known serial killers that all have in common that their mothers dressed them like girls when they were little kids.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I would say that. Otis would claim that his grandmother was a Satanist who exposed him to dark rituals and grave robbing.
Why not? I mean, yeah, throw a little occultism in there.
Around the age of 8, Toole suffered a head injury in which a board, I guess their house was just like falling in. It was like a big piece of shit house. Some kind of board, like he stepped on the board. It came up like a big 2x4 or something, whacked him right in the head. And it had a nail and it stuck in his head like 3 inches into his head.
Son of a gun. Right in his frontal lobe.
Exactly. It went 3 inches deep into his frontal lobe.
Holy shit, dude. Look, it's like a damn... It's like a chart. It's like a step-by-step.
I'm telling you.
Of how to make a serial killer.
After that, he experienced epilepsy and grand mal seizures. Otis claimed that by 10 years old, he knew he was homosexual. It was around this time that he started committing petty crimes. Now, during the 60s and 70s, Jacksonville was experiencing change. The civil rights movement had ignited a wave of political and social unrest. Racial tensions were high. Crime rates exploded. Poverty-stricken neighborhoods were often the scenes of violent crime, and Toole's family was not immune to this. They resided in a very impoverished neighborhood. As I mentioned, the house is decaying, falling in. They're very poor.
Well, yeah, I can't imagine either of his parents are working professionals. I mean, come on.
Violence and chaos was a regular part of his early life. I mean, not only at home, but just out in the streets. Not good.
No, it's not good.
Toole dropped out of 9th grade. His IQ was 75, which is considered borderline intellectual function.
Do you know, I heard, I don't know if it's true, that earmark used to be at 85, but then later was lowered down to 70.
Interesting.
Wow.
Okay, so let's see here. Around this time, Toole, he's about 14 years old. He starts frequenting gay bars. He also admitted that during this time, he became obsessed with gay pornography. His first known victim was a salesman named George Sonnenberg from Nebraska. Sonnenberg had been in Jacksonville on business when he crossed paths with Toole in 1962. 15-year-old Otis Toole set Sonnenberger's car on fire, trapping the man inside. He died from his injuries. And Toole was an arsonist from a very young age.
Fascination with fire.
He loved to set fires, burn down abandoned buildings, old sheds, burn up trash, set the neighbors' shit on fire. He found fire sexually arousing.
Oh, interesting.
It just gets me hard when I see a fire.
I like ashes.
The smell of melting plastic turns me on.
Ashes and asses. That's what I'm into.
After dropping out of school, Otis became transient. He started floating across the country, hitchhiking, engaging in criminal activity. He was earning money through sex work and panhandling.
He's just looking for himself.
He's just a drifter on the wind.
He's just trying to find himself,
Mm-hmm.
and burning piles of trash.
Yes. While in Nebraska, Otis became a suspect in a murder. So let's talk about that. Patricia Webb had been adopted by relatives after her mother passed away when she was 4 years old. Raised by an aunt and uncle in Nebraska, Patricia was a talented roller skating winner. She won the North Central Regional Amateur Roller Skating Championships.
Damn.
It's like a really good, artful roller skater.
She must have been pretty good.
She married after graduation, but that didn't work out. She enrolled twice at the University of Nebraska, but never graduated. In 1974, she began working at an adult bookstore and cinema in Lincoln. And of course, the business was under fire by residents who thought the pornography store did not belong in their community. There was a lot of outrage about this porno store. In April of 1974, Patricia had been closing the bookstore. After her shift, the following morning, employees came in to a strange scene at the shop. 51 bondage magazines were missing, along with $30 from the till and a calculator.
Oh, okay.
The phone cord had been cut, and the store had not been closed down properly. It was left unlocked, lights still on, and there was no sign of Patricia. A few days later, a local farmer discovered Patricia's body hidden underneath some hay, like in his cattle field. She was completely nude except for a quilted jacket. A piece of duct tape covered her mouth. Now, what's interesting, Dylan, is this jacket was quite a unique jacket. It was an extra large size, but this jacket had been made for a local feed mill.
Like given to the workers?
Yes. So 143 of these jackets were given out to employees of this feed mill, and there had been a few of those sold to customers.
Okay.
And she had no connection to this business, and this was not her jacket.
Right. So this is likely the perpetrator's jacket, right? I mean, that's the way you have to view it.
Yeah. Her purse was found in a ditch about a mile away. Her clothing was never recovered. But here's the thing. Patricia had angered some criminals in the community because she worked as a criminal informant. She had a key role in setting up drug busts, which led to the prosecution of 24 people. So at first, police kind of struggled to determine if her involvement as an informant resulted in her death. They had plenty of other CIs who had not been killed. So, was she the exception? They kind of didn't really know.
Right.
But then, and I'm not sure how, Otis Toole became a prime suspect in her murder.
Okay.
Shortly after being named a suspect, Toole fled to Boulder, Colorado. While living in Boulder, he became a prime suspect in the murder of 31-year-old Ellen Holman. Holman had been traveling from Trinidad, Colorado to Pueblo when she vanished. Her body was later found in an Oklahoma field with 3 gunshot wounds to the head. Her car was discovered at an interstate rest stop. Both of these cases remain unsolved. But we have this cloud of suspicion hanging over Otis Toole. These 2 murders 2 states
Well, yeah,
within just like a couple of weeks of each other.
it's like everywhere he goes, someone turns up dead.
Exactly. He's got to get the fuck out of there, so he returns to Jacksonville, Florida. In 1976, Toole met another drifter named Henry Lee Lucas at a soup kitchen. Toole and Lucas shared very similar backgrounds. Like, as I mentioned, they both had these horrific abusive childhoods and were dressed up like little girls. When the pair met, Lucas had already served 10 years in prison for murdering his mother. He had stabbed her with a knife after she beat him with a broomstick during the Christmas holiday. How lovely. With so much in common, Toole invited his new friend Henry to move in with him. Toole lived in some kind of house in the backyard of his mother's place, so I don't know if it was a house or a shack or a shed.
Would you say he called it the back house?
He called it the back house.
Okay.
Yeah. Living in the mother's home were his stepfather, a sister, and a niece and a nephew that were both minors. They were like 11 and 13 at the time, I think. In 1977, Toole married a woman named Novella, who was 25 years older than him. He would later say the marriage was to cover up his homosexuality.
She was a beard.
But the thing is, Dylan, pretty quickly after meeting Henry Lee Lucas, Toole and Lucas become lovers. So this marriage does not last. Novella was sickened by the affair between her husband and Lucas. She also said Otis couldn't perform sexually with a woman. He wanted her to have sex with other men while he sat in a cuck chair, watching.
Oh, damn.
These were all things she was just like, I'm not going to do any of that. And she moved out of the home.
Otis, old freak.
He looks like a freak. The marriage was never dissolved, but she no longer resided with him. And the relationship was simply over. Toole and Lucas supported themselves with menial jobs and, of course, petty crimes. I think their longest lasting employment was with a roofing company in Jacksonville. And they kind of worked there on and off for like 2 years.
Can you imagine these two doing your roof?
No, because Henry Lee Lucas has got like one eye.
Yeah, I know.
And like no teeth. Looking all crazy.
And Otis looking crazy
and Otis,
too.
like his weird fucked up grill, and he's all
6'7",
weird and lurchy.
Big and weird.
Stupid looking.
Climbing up and down the ladder going, hey. What the fuck?
You tore that roof good. Yeah, I don't know. If these guys showed up to do my roof, I would be like, no, thank you.
Yeah, no, I just want it to leak. I need you guys
I
to
will
leave.
find someone else. Now, the pair would travel together, disappearing for long stretches of time. Sometimes they parted, but usually ended up back together in Jacksonville. They would drive around, robbing stores, but eventually that wasn't enough. Their bloodlust kicked in, and they were suspected of committing as many as 19 murders in and around Jacksonville.
Damn.
Like convenience store clerks.
Just anyone who crossed their path.
People that will just like in robberies. Yeah.
So here you already have two guys who are bad separately, right? They've both done terrible things apart before they even met. And now that they've teamed up, it's only going to get worse, right? Their depravity.
Yeah. It's like these two shitbirds of a feather just flocking together.
They were flocking.
Sarah Toole, Otis's mother, purchased another house and moved the whole clan in. She would also take in boarders. I can't imagine what kind of people would want to like live in this home and rent from these people.
I'd be like, yeah, I'm answering your ad in the paper for a room to rent. And Henry Lee and Otis come just stumbling out.
Henry Lee the Cyclops with his one eye.
Yeah.
And I'm not making fun of people with one eye, but I'll make fun of him.
We're going to make fun of both of those ugly sons of bitches.
Because he's grody.
Yeah, they're monsters.
During this time, Lucas began an affair with Frida Becky Powell, Toole's underage niece. And I think she was 13 or 14 at this time.
So gross.
Toole viewed Becky, who was developmentally disabled, as like a daughter. So he did not like this relationship between Henry Lee and Becky. He did not approve.
Well, and I guess in a weird way, he's probably jealous too, because they've been intimate.
Maybe. But maybe he also kind of knew Henry Lee was a creep and didn't want his niece involved with the creep.
Well, yeah.
Like, I can be involved with the creep, but not you.
Right.
Yeah. Henry's mother, Sarah, died in 1981, and this hit him particularly hard. A short time later, his sister also died of a drug overdose. The children were removed from the home and placed into a state juvenile facility in Barstow, Florida. Otis was deeply upset with the losses. I mean, he's lost his mom, his sister, and now his niece and nephew have gone away.
Damn. So he's lost everything.
The pair stole the truck, kidnapped the children, and headed north. In Delaware, the truck broke down and Henry Lee was arrested. I have some reports that he was arrested in Delaware, but other reports say Maryland, so I'm not really sure, but Henry Lee goes to jail. Otis managed to get to Newport News, Virginia, hitchhiking, and ended up at a Salvation Army where they bought him a bus ticket back to Jacksonville. From July 22nd until October 6th of 1981, Henry Lee was in jail. So Otis Toole is alone. He's home in Jacksonville, all by himself. He began drinking excessively and using drugs. It was during this period that Adam Walsh disappeared from the Sears store in Hollywood, Florida.
So the proximity adds up. He is by himself now. Henry Lee's in jail.
He's like, all by myself, don't want to be. It's like having a Bridget Jones moment.
So it's really quite possible that he was the person who killed Adam Walsh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. So Lucas Toole and Becky reunite in Florida, but they leave town. Law enforcement was looking for Becky. So that's when, like, Henry Lee, they're like, we got to leave the state. When they finally, leave for good, they left Otis behind. Henry Lee and Becky settle in Texas, and one day they get into a heated argument. Henry Lee lures Becky to a field where he murders her. After decapitating Becky, he dismembers her body, scattering the remains. Afterwards, Lucas returned to a ranch where the couple had been living and working. A woman who had befriended Becky, an elderly lady named Kate Rich, started asking too many questions about Becky and what's happened to her.
Where's Becky?
So Lucas, he kills her too.
Jesus.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Toole is in Florida. He sinks deeper into depression. He's feeling betrayed by his best friend and his niece.
His niece?
Yeah. Whatever, he considers her a daughter, but she's his niece. Becky, he's setting fires to abandoned buildings. He's just burning shit up. He kind of leaves the state here and there. He's roaming around the Southeast, allegedly, killing more people.
Those were known as passion fires. Because his heart burns.
It's called self-care, Dylan.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
This is the only thing that makes him happy.
You might take antidepressants. I burn stuff. I just watch it get reduced down to ash.
You know what? Coming from you, that's rich, you little firebug.
I used to like fire. Long-time listeners will know this about me. But
you could be a serial killer.
No, I didn't do any of the other stuff, and I'm pretty sure my big head protected my frontal lobe. I'm fairly certain of that.
I don't know. Sometimes I think maybe your mama dropped you.
Yeah.
I feel like you've got some brain damage.
But I was like a cat when I was a baby. I always landed on my feet. Heather's like, no, that head's going.
I've seen you.
That head's going to make contact first.
You can brag about your agility, Dylan, but I've also seen you bust your ass some couple times.
Well, no, that was if I was drinking. But if I'm sober, dude, I don't go down.
Yeah.
No,
I've
seriously.
seen you fall down the stairs.
Well, yeah, but that was alcohol's fault. Mm. But no, I'm like a badminton with this head. Like if you throw the badminton thing up in the air.
The little birdie?
The birdie. You know how the red part makes it point back down? So my head's probably going to hit first, I guess.
Probably.
Right.
I mean, it does weigh a lot. In May of 1983, Jacksonville authorities were investigating the arson fires of 2 buildings. 2 witnesses came forward saying that they had seen Otis Toole set the fires using gasoline. When Toole is picked up by law enforcement, he happily admitted that he had set the fires, and then told him about 40 other unsolved arson cases, places he had also burned down.
Oh, I burned over there sometimes too when I was,
So again, I think this
kind
kind of proves what the detective had said, that he will just admit to, he'll just tell you what he did.
Right.
He doesn't try to hide it.
And you don't even have to
If
really
you catch him, then he'll be like, I did it. And then he'll tell you about it's because it's like he's bragging about what he did. Like he's going to get a little reward. Well, his reward was being sentenced to 20 years in prison for these fires.
Okay.
Into Florida State Prison. Toole was then arrested for the murder of 19-year-old Ada Johnson, who lived in Tallahassee. Ada had gone missing in late February of 1983. She was found about a week later stabbed with multiple gunshot wounds as well, just discarded in a wooded area. Now, while Otis is serving time in Florida, his friend Henry Lee had been indicted for the 2 murders in Texas. And while in custody, Lucas admitted to other murders and implicated his friend Otis in some of these. When Otis was interviewed in prison, he admitted that, yes, he had killed people with Henry Lee. Not only did Toole corroborate Lucas's story, but he also confessed to other murders that he had committed. However, Henry Lee was proven to be a liar because we know he claimed like 600 victims and then like 10,000 victims, so you just can't really believe what he says. A lot of the murders he confessed to have been disproven over the years. Like timelines don't match up. He was locked up or in prison when these murders were happening, or he was nowhere near the state.
But wasn't this almost like a frenzy with law enforcement from states around coming to these guys with unsolved cases, and they would basically just say, yeah, we did that.
Yeah, and it was also kind of like the first time he ever got any attention, and people were like buying him cigarettes and like interested in what he had to say.
Right. He had a captive audience.
Yeah.
So he's just...
So he was like, woohoo, this is like the first time anybody's ever showed me any attention. Toole told investigators not only had they murdered people, but they had engaged in cannibalism in some of the cases. Toole also told them they were part of a satanic cult. And there's a book called like The Hand... It's like the
hand that rubs me.
It's like the hand of something. I don't know. There's a book about this satanic cult in the Everglades that they were supposedly part of.
Oh, dude, I think that's called Satan's Bunghole.
That's not it. It's something about the hand of, like the hand of the devil, or I don't know.
That's right. Devil's knuckle.
Look, at this point, my brain's a little. I'm over.
Yeah, I know you've been deep in the vault. Even though you don't like me to call it a vault.
I'm sort of like malfunctioning at this point.
Yes, the devil's knuckle.
My brain's been too overactive today.
We'll go with that.
Now, it was during this time that Toole first confessed to kidnapping, raping, and murdering Adam Walsh. According to different reports, Toole said he drove around with the boy's head in the trunk of his 1971 Cadillac for 2 days before disposing of it in a canal. According to Toole's final confession, he had abducted Adam from outside the Sears store by offering the boy toys and candy. At first, Adam was described as docile and cooperative. However, the child became panicked as Toole drove further away from the mall, and the boy realized there was no candy, no toys. After a period of the boy crying and asking for his mom, Toole said he punched Adam in the face. He then proceeded to beat the child unconscious.
Gosh, I know he was just little, but I almost can't imagine this little sweet boy going with this weird, scary-looking guy, you know?
Yeah, I know. Now, Toole says he initially thought that Adam was a bright little boy and that he wanted to take him back to Jacksonville and raise him as his own son. But soon realized that maybe that's not going to work out.
Right.
Toole drove the child to northwest St. Lucie County near the Raidbaugh Road overpass. When he realized the boy was still alive, Toole used the car's seatbelt to strangle the child. Once the boy was dead, Toole dragged him out of the car. Using what he described as a machete, Toole removed Adam's head.
Jesus.
Now, later, blood-stained carpet will be removed from that 1971 Cadillac. But the source of blood could not be identified. They were using like old forensic techniques.
Right. Very, very
rudimentary stuff, right? Eventually, Hollywood police lost the carpet sample. They also misplaced the machete and ultimately the entire Cadillac. Like, how do you lose a car? That's a piece of evidence. How you just fucking lose a car?
Where's that car? I know I put it around here somewhere.
I mean, this is a pretty big thing to lose, right?
Well, all those are big things to lose. Blood-stained carpet.
Did they park it like at the end of the Walmart parking lot and like forget where they parked? And they're like, well, I guess it's gone now.
Not just imagine with the advancements in forensics, they very well could identify that. And even if it wasn't Adam's blood,
Well, yeah, that's
God forbid, it could be it's somebody's blood.
Case.
Jesus.
Toole was never officially charged in the murder of Adam Walsh, but remains a top suspect. There were some witnesses who placed Toole in the area of Hollywood, Florida at the time of Adam's disappearance. Now, while Toole is in prison and he's confessing to these murders, he is ultimately convicted in the murders of a man named John McDaniel, Geraldine Peoples, Brenda Burton, Ruby McCrary, George Sonnenberg, and Ada Johnson. All of these people were killed in Florida, like up until 1983.
Damn.
Toole died in 1996 while serving a life sentence, or life sentences, I should say. He was 49 years old. Later, his niece will share with John Walsh that Toole's deathbed confession was that he had murdered Adam Walsh.
Well, God, so what do you think?
Well, we're not done.
Okay.
Just wait. There's more. In 1997, a newly appointed Hollywood police chief named Rick Stone conducted a review of Adam's case. The 22-year law enforcement veteran analyzed evidence, the taped interviews with Toole, and, just like some of the other witness statements. Basically, he's doing like a really thorough evaluation of all these pieces of evidence.
He's digging through the entire murder book.
He stated beyond a reasonable doubt that he does believe Toole killed Adam Walsh. Now, in 2007, a theory surfaced naming Jeffrey Dahmer as a suspect in Adam's case.
You're no way.
Yes. Dahmer had been living in Miami at the time of Adam's disappearance. 2 witnesses, including a journalist, placed him at the Hollywood Mall on the day Adam went missing. One of the witnesses saw a blonde man struggling with a child, eventually shoving the boy into a blue van. And it just so happens that Dahmer had access to a blue van. It was used for deliveries at his job.
Okay.
Dahmer preyed on teenagers and young men. We know that. He was also known for decapitating his victims. Dahmer was interviewed in 1992 about Adam Walsh's murder, but denied involvement. However, it has been reported that Dahmer was afraid to admit to the murder of a child for fear there would be retaliation from inmates because he was already in prison. But it didn't matter because they still fucked him up.
Right.
They's gonna kill him anyway. When presented with the information, John Walsh disregarded this theory. He does not believe that Adam was killed by Jeffrey Dahmer. At this point, he does believe that Otis Toole was responsible. And in 2008, the case was officially closed.
Okay.
And I guess it's just sort of an accepted theory that it was Otis Toole.
Even though he was never convicted
Right.
or charged.
Yeah.
That's the most likely person to have killed him.
Now, if you would like to read further on this Jeffrey Dahmer theory, there's a book called Frustrated Witness by the reporter Willis Morgan. Now, Morgan was at the Hollywood Mall on the day Adam disappeared in 1981. The book describes his encounter with a young Jeffrey Dahmer that day, as well as highlights missteps taken by law enforcement in Adam's case. When Morgan went to police as a witness, saying like, hey, I saw this young man, he was blonde, like describing Jeffrey Dahmer, police totally discounted his statements. They didn't care.
He's saying that he encountered Dahmer at the mall?
Yes.
On that day?
Yes. And when he saw Dahmer's photo, he was like, holy shit, that's the man I saw in the mall that day.
Wow.
Like, he said this, that Dahmer was being so fucking weird and creepy and just gave him the, like, heebie-jeebies. He could not forget Dahmer's face.
Holy cow.
And other witnesses have come forward and said the same thing. Like, when I saw his picture, I remembered him because he gave me the creeps.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Now, I must say, Morgan gives some compelling arguments that Dahmer was responsible. So definitely worth a read. Let's talk a little bit about Dahmer at this time. He arrived in Miami On March 26 of 1981, he had about $581 in his pocket. He had been dishonorably discharged from the military just before this. Not much is known about his first few months in Miami, but in late June, he found work at Sunshine Subs. According to Dahmer, he rented a room for the first week. He was in town. He was just drinking. We know he was an alcoholic, so he's just spending most of his time drinking in this room. But eventually, he ran out of money, so he started sleeping on the beach. He would rent a room maybe once or twice a week in order to shower.
Okay.
After, being homeless. He ran out of cash pretty fast, as I said. He would eat from dumpsters at the time, and that's actually how he ended up with his job. He was eating out of the dumpster when the sub shop's owner caught him and was like, buddy, just come in and I'll give you some food, and then offered him a job. Okay. So he's given this job at the sub shop, but sometimes he didn't show up for work. The guy had offered him full-time employment, but Dahmer was not a very reliable employee. He was earning minimum wage plus a shift meal, but it was very little money at the time. To be fair, he's probably making $2 an hour or something back in the 80s. I don't know what minimum wage was then, but not very much.
I'm going to guess $3-4 an hour, but you also have to consider the buying power of the dollar, but that's another conversation.
Eventually, the sub shop's owner helped him find a small studio, apartment rental at a motel. But little did his employer know, Jeffrey was using the blue van, the delivery van, to cruise South Florida. He would take this van without permission and drive around all night, go pick up people, party, whatever.
He's making it happen.
At times, Dahmer would show up for work beaten and bruised. His glasses were broken. At some point, the owner bought Dahmer glasses. Dahmer claimed he'd been beaten up at the beach, but then the owner speculates that it could have been Dahmer picking up hitchhikers in the van and that there was some kind of struggle.
Right.
Adam's disappearance happened 1 month into Dahmer's employment at Sunshine Subs. He was fired in September of that year. At the time, Dahmer returned to Ohio. But like I said, Hollywood police dismissed the idea that there had even been this blue van. But there were witnesses at the mall on the day Adam disappeared who said, I saw a blue van. I saw a boy being put into a blue van.
So before they heard the name Dahmer or before all that comes out,
I talked
or
about it
any
in
of
the
that?
first part of the case.
Right.
There had been witnesses who said, I saw a blue van. Yep. But they're trying to act like this van didn't even exist. That the sub shop didn't even have a van like this, which is crazy because, there's all these employees who are like, no, we definitely had a blue van and it was used for deliveries and Dahmer had access to it.
Damn.
The FBI office in Miami considered Dahmer a prime suspect in Adam's case, but the local police department just absolutely disregarded this theory. But the timeline does fit. Dahmer could have gotten to the Hollywood Mall in 20 minutes from the sub shop. The writer's encounter with Dahmer, I'm saying Dahmer in quotations because we don't really know if it was Dahmer, but he says he encountered him around noon, which means that he could have kidnapped Adam between 12:15 and 12:30 p.m.
Okay.
On August 17th, after Adam's disappearance, an 11-year-old boy came forward saying that he was nearly abducted by a man driving a blue van. The driver had followed the boy as he was walking home and at some point tried to pull over and grab the child in the parking lot of this apartment building. The child was able to run into his ground floor apartment and lock the door. The man started beating on the door, hitting and kicking it for about 10 minutes. By the time police arrived, the man was gone. The boy described him as being about 6 feet tall, Caucasian in his early 20s, and that he either had sandy blonde or light brown hair and a mustache.
Sounds like Dahmer.
When Miami police learned about the suspect and the blue van, this kind of coincided with some of the witness statements at the mall. They contacted Hollywood police with the information about this boy almost being kidnapped. But again, police in Hollywood, Florida did nothing after getting this report. So back to our TV executives. We're about to wrap up here. I know this was a long episode. There was this idea for this interactive crime show, as I mentioned, but the key was finding the perfect host. Now, the first choice had been Joseph Wambaugh, a former police officer and a best-selling author, a true crime writer, actually. Several politicians were considered. At one point, they were even thinking about maybe like Rudy Giuliani. I don't know.
I don't think that would have
I
worked.
guess he had been like an attorney general or something. I'm
Well,
not really
yeah,
sure.
but he just doesn't seem like he'd come. He doesn't.
Oh, come on. He has no charisma.
No, none.
He's just fucking weird.
He doesn't have any of the ish.
No. Now, at some point, John Walsh was recommended for this show. Now, remember, he had been in discussion with NBC executives. Some time has passed. His name comes up again. So after some discussion, Walsh was hired to host the pilot episode of a brand new show called America's Most Wanted,
What?
which debuted on February 7th of 1988. Within 4 days of the first broadcast, an FBI top 10 fugitive named David Roberts was captured after being featured on the show.
Yeah, dude, America's Most Wanted was no joke, man. If your ass was on that, you were in trouble.
Oh, yeah. America's Most Wanted helped solve a lot of cases and bring a lot of fugitives to justice.
Yeah.
I mean, it really was an effective program.
No, it was, and they just started doing all the crimes. You know, it wasn't just missing children.
Right.
And it was funny because people,
Well, the concern had been the show won't make any money,
yeah,
but people fucking loved this show.
the
Like,
ratings were through the roof.
The program was featured nationwide on a new network called Fox. It became a hit series. In 1996, the show was briefly canceled, then rebranded. On March 6th of 2010, Fox aired the 1,000th episode.
Damn.
John Walsh interviewed President Barack Obama at the White House for this 1,000th episode, which is wild. In 2011, the show aired its final episodes. John Walsh went on to host a daytime talk show called The John Walsh Show from 2002 to 2004 on NBC stations. In 2003, John Walsh made headlines when he helped in solving the disappearance of Elizabeth Smart. He also attempted to aid the family of Natalie Holloway, who disappeared in Aruba. Since the murder of Adam Walsh, John and Hervé have worked tirelessly to advocate for missing and murdered children. And because of their efforts, law enforcement now investigates missing children's cases much differently. John Walsh's passion for victims' rights had really cemented his status in like our cultural, mind, if you will.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, most people know John Walsh as the host of America's Most Wanted, the father of Adam, and just being this
Advocate for everyone.
like this bulldog who really tries to do what's right and get justice for folks.
And really has, God, I don't know if hatred's the right word, but when he talks about these criminals and these people who hurt children or victimize women, you can just see that he really is pissed off about it.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? He just has that aura.
Oh, he absolutely is. But, he's really charismatic.
No, he is.
And people have really, he is a big following. People really love him, and he's really effective at what he does.
I didn't realize
his personality and tenacity.
I did not realize America's Most Wanted carried on that long.
Over the years, it was rebranded and some different, packaged up in some different ways. It went from an hour to 30-minute program. But, it lasted for quite a while. My resources for today include John Walsh's book, Tears of Rage, Jeffrey Dahmer's Dirty Secret, written by Arthur J. Harris, Willis Morgan's book that I previously mentioned, Frustrated Witness, and Ryan Green's Trust Me, which covers Henry Lee Lucas and Otis Toole's relationship in Crime Spree.
Damn.
Along with a lot of newspaper articles.
Well, thank you for that. I did not realize there was all these tie-ins to the Adam Walsh case, to these other notable names in true crime. I had no idea. So, consider me schooled.
You've been served.
I just got served.
You just got served.
A big old plate of Heather's brain.
That's right. So now it's time to get in here and have a dance off.
Okay.
Dance.
I'll dance for you.
Dance. Well, if you have any thoughts or feelings about today's episode, feel free to email us at mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com.
Yes. And at the same mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com, you can help me with my nonprofit. Dylan doesn't have to go to work tomorrow. We really need to move quickly to get that off the ground.
Mountain Murders Podcast has a PayPal account. Just saying.
And really, we don't really need your time so much.
Support the show by joining Patreon.
Yeah. No, but truly, you can help support the show by joining Patreon and getting access to a ton of extra content, commercial-free episodes on everything. And Heather is vigilantly working on the third installment of the West Memphis 3 deep
we should
dive.
have that out here in a day or two.
Did you hear that, Santa? It's coming out for you.
She's really excited.
She's really excited. And I can't wait for that myself. So we'll get back to it. And yeah, anything else, Heather?
Well, you can also check out our merch store if you go to mountainmurderspodcast.com, our website. Not only can you access the podcast there, but you can find our merch store, which is another great way to support the show.
In time for the holiday, support these hoes.
Mugs, t-shirts, hoodies, stickers, a lot of different designs, some fun designs. Go check it out.
Check it out.
All right, Dylan. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.